thousands of Israelis joined labor strikes and protests nationwide on Monday in the strongest push yet to force Benjamin Netanyahu's government to agree to a ceasefire with Hamas and secure the release of hostages in Gaza. Now, despite shifting public opinion on the war, the Israeli Prime Minister is standing firm on ceasefire terms.
We say yes, they say no all the time, but they also murdered these people. And now we need maximum pressure on Hamas. I don't believe that either President Biden or anyone serious about achieving peace and achieving the release would seriously ask Israel to make these concessions. We've already made them.
Well, for more on this, Bloomberg's Dan Williams joins us from Jerusalem. We were just listening to quite a defiant prime minister there, saying that he doesn't want to make more concessions on these ceasefire discussions. Tell us more, Dan.
Indeed, and that defiance is directed not just potentially at the Biden administration, given that we're hearing from Washington indications that they're really getting exasperated with their efforts to shepherd along this round of truce talks between Israel and Hamas, and may even present their own take it or leave it final formula. It's also directed at domestic opinion. Netanyahu is beset by protests on a scale that haven't been seen in Israel previously during this war. In fact, they recall protests that happened before the war last year against his judicial reform efforts in government. So he's on two fronts, having to defend himself, defending what he describes as a very necessary tough tack on Hamas as this war reaches the 11th month mark, just days away. And we're hearing a prime minister who insists that his decisions will be kept to, despite even having within his cabinet a dissenting voice in the form of his own defense minister, the most senior civilian official in charge of this war.
So, I mean, it's really difficult to predict here, Dan, but truly, what happens next? Because it really does appear to be the case that Netanyahu and the cabinet don't want to stand down on maintaining a military presence along the Philadelphi corridor. And yet that is a deal breaker for Hamas, for Egypt. Many of the mediators are trying to get concessions on that front, at least for the first phase of the truce. Where is the daylight going to come from?
The Prime Minister, in his briefing yesterday, he actually argued that Israel's hold on Philadelphia corridor is a deal maker. He says that since Israel went in there, Hamas has actually shown a new openness to truce talks, because as far as Israel's concerned, Philadelphia corridor is effectively the windpipe. That's the metaphor he's used for Hamas. It's a means of providing weaponry, support, potentially an exit to safety in the Egyptian Sinai. And he says that because Israel is there, Hamas has been feeling the pressure, and this, if anything, might prod Hamas toward a deal. Now, Hamas in itself says that it will continue fighting. There's no question, however, that Israel has overrun the Gaza Strip. Again, this war is almost 11 months old. Netanyahu says that Israel is on the way to crushing Hamas, which is its declared aim here, and will not be deterred from doing so. So I think we have to watch for what happens on the ground in terms of battlefield developments. And indeed, if there is an open new tack of pressure from Washington, from the Biden administration, which may be unlikely given the fact that they're watching their presidential election there, and they really have other things to keep them busy.
Yeah, 8 weeks away from the U.S. elections. But you talk about international pressure. Interesting to hear from the UK Foreign Minister yesterday, David Lammy, saying that they are looking to halt some arms licenses to Israel on potential law breaches on how those weapons have been used within Gaza. What does that tell you about how the international community are thinking about the latest developments and further pressure we could get on Netanyahu from the international community, in this case from the UK?
Well, I think this in itself, as reported by Bloomberg, is not materially significant. However, the symbolism here, the messaging is significant. It could be seen as something of a shot across the bows for Israel. Indeed, the Israeli Prime Minister in his televised briefing said that because of the attack he's pursued necessarily, he says, in Gaza, Israel has effectively faced arms embargoes. He used those words. Now, The Brits are not using the word arm embargo. They're describing this as more of a localized attempt to restrain or prevent the use of British components in weaponry that might have contributed to the violation of human rights. That's specifically a reference to the Gaza war and Palestinian civilian rights there, the Palestinian civilian plight. I think what the Starmer government is trying to signal here, both for its own British domestic needs, is that it's taken aboard British concerns, certainly among its electorate, for the Palestinians, for the situation in Gaza. It's not yet ready to really break the mold of British-Israeli ties, but I think it's hoping here that the signal, the very public signal, will cause Israel to change tack or reassess.